people who are successful, we call it a winner's mindset. How do you process defeat?
I've lost that election thrice. The first time I lost the election by 6 votes. I lost
it was 6.
And there was a time when I said I lost in a lucky dip. Both of us got equal number of votes. That moment when you lose it, your morale sinks down. Should I accept defeat? And that's something which I don't. I will have to do it to the last.
How has the Mysore royal family contributed?
What a visionary leader Nalwadi Krishnaraj Awadiyar. To think that when Sir Vishweshwar suggested, and this was pre-independence. We've gone through an era of analog, we've moved on to an industrial era, we came into the digital era, and now we are on an AI mission. I'm always in awe.
You spoke about the budget. What does the process look like?
All the associations are invited. So as FKCCI, we collect pre-budget memorandums, which when put together and discussed and what can be done, what cannot be done, comes the final budget document which the Chief Minister reads out, and we are there listening, are into it.
Gen Z generation, the upcoming Alpha generation.
There is no enthusiasm by the young gen to join manufacturing. Nobody wants to dirty their fingers. It's very difficult. Everybody wants a desk job. And how many desk jobs do you have?
Your one hope for upcoming generations?
I only hope that their attention span increases. That's my only hope.
90s, you have a very young woman. I'm sure you were intimidating a lot of people around you as well at those times. Then you wanted to be a successful entrepreneur and all of that.
I had holidays and I didn't know what to do. Started doing some designing work for an uncle. And then I got paid some money. So I said, instead of doing it for you, and I know you're getting paid much more, why don't I do it directly to Bharat Electronics? He said, yeah, you can do that. My mom said, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Get a job in a bank. It is safe, secure. You needed a secure job. And then I went and asked them for collateral security.
AI. There's a whole lot of plus and wins that comes with new technology, but you also have displacement of jobs.
We've seen the computers come in the 80s, and that was the same thing that was talked about that time, that computers would replace people. What would people do? And computers came in, computers are, I think, imbibed into our system, and with AI and robotics now, so we don't know what else is in store.
I was talking to one of the past presidents. I was asking him what fascinates you about your tenure as a president, and he said, we're surrounded by women. Ms. Shalini Rajneesh, who's there. You have Shobha Karandlaje, who's the minister at MSME. You have Nirmala Sitharaman as the finance minister.
Now we have a Khushbu Goyal as commissioner for industries.
We have Manjula, who's the principal secretary for ITBT.
And we have an RBI regional head is also women.
Yes. So maybe good times for the state then.
Absolutely.
One word that best describes your entrepreneurial journey?
Resilience.
For someone I've known for over 2 decades, what strikes me most is not the positions she has held, but the person she has remained. There is a very famous quote often attributed to Margaret Thatcher. If you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. And every time I hear that quote, I think of our guest today. Uma Reddy is one of those rare leaders who combines warmth with action. She is approachable, generous with her time, deeply invested in people, and yet remarkably effective at getting things done. Whether it is helping an entrepreneur find direction, bringing stakeholders together, or championing an industry cause, she has always been someone who quietly moves things forward. Today, she serves as the president of the Federation of Karnataka Chambers of Commerce and Industry, becoming its first woman president, a landmark achievement in the institution's long and distinguished history. She is also the managing director of High Tech Magnetics and Electronics Private Limited, a company she built as a first generation entrepreneur over more than 3 decades. An engineer by background, she has dedicated her life to strengthening manufacturing, MSMEs, women entrepreneurship, and industry policy advocacy. Her journey is remarkable. From leading organizations such as Awake and Emerge to representing industry at national and international forums, to receiving both the National Award from the Government of India and the Karnataka Rajyotsava Award, she has consistently used her success to create opportunities for others. What I particularly admire is that despite all of these accomplishments, Uma remains exactly the same person she was when I met her first 20 years ago. Warm, grounded, accessible, always willing to help. At a time when Karnataka's entrepreneurs, especially the MSMEs, need stronger voices and better advocacy, she has stepped into leadership with a clear focus on growth, innovation, infrastructure, global partnerships, and greater participation of women in business. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome a friend, an entrepreneur, a builder of institutions, a champion of industry, and above all, a person who makes things happen. Welcome, Uma.
Thank you, Yash. Thank you very much.
So, Uma, thank you so much for doing this with us, and very excited to be in your distinguished office of FKCCI.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much for inviting me, Yash. It's always a pleasure meeting you because there's always a learning that happens when I meet you. And I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Uma, we're going to be having a conversation of many things because we've accomplished many things. We'll start with, I think, your announcement as the first woman president of FKCCI. So when that announcement happened and you took over and you climbed those steps that are a legacy of this building, what were some of the thoughts running in your mind?
At that point of time, and there was a lot of joy that I finally did it. I could be there in the footsteps of Sir M. Visvesvaraya. And with it came a huge amount of responsibility. Because while I walked up that steps and I see Sir M.V.'s photograph there, and I do that every day when I walk up the steps from the day I become president and even prior to that, he actually sees you in that eye, in that picture. And you feel that, responsibility of, being able to contribute in the way that he envisioned at that point of time. That's when you get humbled by what a person he was at that point of time. And it gives you the direction at that point of time. I think it does all the three.
No, but what an achievement. From the little bit that I understand about the functioning of this, there are elections that needs to be won, and you were serving quite successfully as its vice president as well. So can you walk us through, because a lot of them see you as the president, but there's like years of hard work that's gone behind it. If you can.
I agree, Yash. As far as FKCCI is concerned, it's a huge election process. It's a very democratic organization. Okay. So there are fair elections that happen, but happens in full steam. Okay. Every year, the vice president is elected by the elected members of the organization. Okay. So there is a step process, and you can imagine a 110-year organization has gone through the process of ensuring that a fair election happens. So it is as difficult as you would see a government election, an election that happens in the government, except that we don't go around canvassing, which used to happen earlier days, when the entire members would elect the vice president. Over some years, FKCCI came out with a strategy that every sector, so small manufacturing, large manufacturing, small trade, large trade, small services, large services, professionals, associations, each will elect 5 members in their sector to the managing committee, which together becomes 48 members. And then we have 24 past presidents who are our sitting managing committee members with voting rights. Now, the 48 plus 24 becomes 72 members who vote for the vice president. So, it's a two-step election. You have to first win in your sector and then win. Now, that doesn't happen overnight. So, it has been a big process. I've been with FKCCI for 22 years.
Wow.
And this was way back in 1992 when I was an invitee in the Chamber of Commerce. It was one of the first organizations that I became a member of. And I was here for 2 years when the call for, Awake, being an office bearer in Awake happened, because I was also a member of Awake. So whilst I was on the role of an office bearer, I took a back seat at FKCCI. But since 2005 till 2026, I've been here every year as a managing committee member, winning the election in the managing committee, becoming part of the board, and then finally 3 years ago got elected as the vice president, and then got elevated as a senior vice president, and then this year as president. So that's the whole rigmarole.
Wow, that's quite intensive.
Process. Yeah,
That's
it's
quite
not like you just jump it. No.
Yes, yes. Wow. Just imagine the story of becoming a member of an organization and now
Yes.
pretty much,
They're leading it.
anchoring and leading it. What has made you persevere in this?
I think that's largely in me that, one is to dream, but one is to make it happen. And that's something which I think I've always been like that. When I think of something, what comes after that is what is my roadmap. And I always try to ensure that it is done and it is done well. In the beginning, I was a member, I was just a managing committee member. But every year of my, since 2005 till 2026, I've taken on a role of being a chairman of any of the 25, 30 activities of the chamber, any one of them.
Okay.
And which were Women Entrepreneurs Committee, automatically that was what was given to me at the beginning. But thereafter, I thought of Innovation Excellence Awards. I was heading the International Committee. I was heading the Export Excellence Award. So, or Manthan for about 4 years, which was a lot of mentoring for, young graduates and postgraduate students. And we have a Manthan competition, which is already in its 18th year. So, all these were activities that, I kind of like to do and always had a roadmap to do it better and then make it happen. And that's something which is, I think, a lot imbibed in me, that when I take it up, there has to be a real reason for me to say that I just couldn't do it.
No, you. I have never seen you give up.
Yeah,
Okay. I think once you set your mind on it,
Yeah, I
you
try
always
to do that.
make it
Yes,
happen.
and it has to be good, well done.
It has to be well done. And FKCCI as an organization, we're given to understand, and for the viewers who are tuning in, it operates across all the districts, I'm told. So it's a
Yes.
very well integrated association, because a lot of times what happens is we become very Bangalore centric.
Yes.
And then you have more than 3,000 direct members. And interestingly, I was told you have more than 150 associations
Yes.
who are also members. Can you just help us
So-
understand? Because it's almost like a mini universe out there.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, as I mentioned, we have 4,500 direct members
Okay.
in small trade, large trade, small manufacturing, large manufacturing, small services, large services. We have another 300, 400 professionals, because even they provide services to industry. So they're there. In addition, we have 180 associations and chambers of commerce as our members. Now, these associations are sector-specific associations. It can be an electronic industry association. It can be a steel, plate manufacturing association. We also have the EV manufacturers association. We have the electronic industries. So these are sector. Women entrepreneurs associations, they're all our members. CASIA is a member. PIA is a member of us. So when you look at that, that's a large reach, because each of them would have members of at least from 500 to even 10,000,
Wow.
or 15,000. In addition, every district more or less has a local chamber of commerce.
Okay.
So each of these district chamber of commerce, which is the Shimoga chamber or the Raichur chamber or the Tumkur chamber of commerce, Kolar, every district chamber of commerce is a member of FKCCI. Now, so our reach actually to industries and members are nearly around 350,000 or more. That's the large reach, and that's why we are the Federation of Karnataka Chambers of Commerce and Industry. We are not just a Bangalore Chambers of Commerce and Industry. We are a federation of all the district chambers of commerce and industry. And very similarly, going forward or going ahead, FKCCI is a member of FICCI in Delhi, which is the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, where the state associations, state federations become a member of this. Though they are much younger than we are yet to celebrate our centenary there. And
Yes.
here we are a decade over a centenary, but still we are, we play a very good role. I've been in FICCI for over 14 years. So I'm happy to
What have they
represent.
learned from Azuma?
I think it's more like the chambers that do well, they reach out to us more often because they get the right inputs and the right information. Because at the end of the day, every organization presents what they learn from their state chambers in their case. I mean, our case at FKCCR, we interact with all our district chambers because every month we have a managing committee meeting on the fourth Friday of the month, which is in the evening, where all the district chambers, which are 8 of them, we have 8 zones in, three districts in one zone. And these 8 district representatives come for a morning meeting, and they're free to invite the other district chambers presidents. And from 11 in the morning, we have the district coordination committee meeting on the managing committee day. And all the issues of the districts are discussed there in that meeting. The minutes of that meeting is actually then put up in the managing committee meeting that happens in the evening at about 5 o'clock. And these 8 representatives sit in the managing committee.
Wow.
So you see that complete
It's very
circle
elaborate.
of it. And then once a year, we have the state conference, state district level conference. And we just had it last weekend at Tumkur. So we had a 2-day district level state conference, and every year we have this. So that kind of brings in people from the industry, from the government, who actually come and discuss, and there are interactive sessions.
You're almost sounding like an IAS officer or, somebody who is overseeing a district. Like you sound like a district collector 100%.
But it is like, I'm trying to say that there is a system built in. And if you look at enterprises, at industry, that's how we run our businesses, right? We have a system set right. Otherwise, we won't be able to run our businesses. And I'm glad to say that we have systems running the organization at the chamber. And I'm glad to say that as soon as I took over, we had an ISO certification which we had gone, but I'm ensured that we got back our ISO certification as soon as I took over as president, because it always helps you to be on track.
No, congratulations on that.
you.
Yes. I think a lot of this setup goes back to the Mysore royal family.
Absolutely.
And when I was doing research on this, I did come across a lot of articles which said that, they took real interest in setting this up. And I think your office is historic in so many other ways. How has the Mysore royal family contributed to this?
So, I first and foremost, I always think what a visionary leader Maharaja was at that point, Nalwadi Krishnaraja Wadiyar, to think that when Sir M. Visvesvaraya suggested that we need to have a chamber of commerce, that he thought it was so important that right in the heart of Bengaluru city, he planned to give us this 1.6 acres of land for the then Mysore Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
What a visionary were both the leaders,
Yes.
honestly, for somebody to think of it and for somebody to see that it gets executed. And this was pre-independence in 1916. And looking back, I mean, it's easier, said
hindsight.
than, yeah. But looking back, you can imagine 110 years down the line, today we are as relevant, if not more, than what they thought that they should set it up. And that means we've gone through an era of analog. Yeah, 1916, analog was happening. Our meters were all analog. We moved on to an industrial era when, after independence. And thereafter, we came into the digital era. And now we are on an AI mission. So, and what foresight the visionaries had. I mean, it's really hats off to them. I'm always full of gratitude, and I'm always in awe of the visionary leaders that they were, to think of having the then Mysore Chamber of Commerce. Okay,
And
later on became the Karnataka Chamber of Commerce,
Yes,
and then the
yes.
Federation.
And what a journey the
What a journey.
Federation has had, even,
Yes.
right, through its leaders to kind
Yeah.
of stay relevant.
Absolutely. The first president was a Britisher, W.C. Rose, and thereafter I'm the 92nd president. So
Oh.
we had so many presidents, stalwarts. Every year added value to the chamber, added something more. Those days we are sitting in the Heritage Building, and there is one of our past presidents, K.G. Subram Sethi, who at his age, I think he's 97, and at that age he can recollect very clearly, what they used to do. They were traders in Avenue Road, Chickpet, and then they would come here in the afternoon when the shops would close, and then they would have discussions here, and it was only in the ground floor. And then they would go back, to to their work in the evenings when the shops would open. And, they built it brick by brick, literally, to come here to discuss and then, add value. And then the then president would have to take care of the entire cost of a meeting. That's how it was, because they were small. But over a period of time, we have grown into a professional organization.
Yes.
We have systems, we have people who work here, and so many livelihoods are also dependent on it. And here we are working then also on policy advocacy, which is the main stay, talking to government to come out with, tax regimes more at those point of time. The annual budget was actually started with FKCCI talking with the government, and there was always that discussion with all the association, which happens to today. And those days it used to happen only with FKCCI, and then it moved on. Now we have larger participation of all associations.
Right.
And there is a interaction before the actual budget happens. So there's a pre-budget discussion that happens. So it's great to listen to what everybody has contributed to FKCCI, and everybody has done their bit
Yes,
to
yes,
this.
yes. Now let's kind of go back a little bit in time. You said it was the 1990s that you became a member of
Yes.
FKCCI. What do you remember of those times? Because you're also an entrepreneur. FKCCI probably gave you a platform for ideation, networking. But can you talk to us about the context and the climate? Because I don't want to bring gender in, but we have to get gender in. The 90s, you have a very young woman. I'm sure you were intimidating a lot of people around you as well at those times. And you had this manufacturing bug
Right.
that bit you, right? And you wanted to be a successful entrepreneur and all of that. Just walk us through that phase of how your idea germinated, and what are the steps that you took?
So I was in college when I started my business.
Oh.
And I don't think I knew the spelling of the word entrepreneur, because it was never taught. Right?
And it's a little difficult to pronounce.
Yeah,
right?
as it
right?
is.
It's
I
French,
remember those days when we used to
entrepreneur.
have entrepreneurship development training programs. I remember Madhura used to always point, this is a spelling mistake in entrepreneurship. Yeah, in the banners. Those days we used to have banners, no LED displays. So it was while I was in college, so I started my business. It was started with designing, because we had, I had holidays and I, didn't know what to do. I had finished my exams and we were waiting for the rest of the semester exams to happen. So
What was your college, you know?
UVC.
Oh,
So it's again Sir M. Visvesvarayas College, and that's what led me to FKCCI. So in UVC, in my it's ninth semester that I had these holidays, and I started doing some designing work for an uncle. And I knew he had a factory. He said, "Come do this." In those days were drafting tables, no computers at that point of time. So I did the one design. I did two designs for him. And then I got paid some money, and it was 600 rupees or so. I went and bought some dress. Then I said, "Hey, why am I?" I knew I learned it by that time. So I said, instead of doing it for you, and I know you're getting paid much more, why don't I do it directly to Bharat Electronics? And I knew they were the customers. He said, "Yeah, you can do that." And so probably it was called internship now, but that
Not
time,
at that time.
and then didn't know that. So went to Bharat Electronics. I said, I would like to do these designs. And those days there were not many vendors or anything. So they said, you have to have a business. Now nobody taught us that you need to have a registered business, there is a license. No. So I said, okay. So I went to college, and incidentally, the Industries and Commerce department at that point of time was in Nipatanga Road. It's still there as an office now.
Right.
But that was where it was. And it was next to college. So every day I would go, I applied for license. It took me 9 months to get it because it had to go to Delhi. Those were license Raj days. So it went to Delhi, and I was a young student. So I didn't mind
The waiting.
so at that point of time, you really, as a student, don't think of nuances of manufacturing or designing, or I'm an entrepreneur, or am I gender? No, it's just the job, right? That work. I have wanted to do it. I went to BL, they told me to do it. So it took me 9 months by the time I finished my college. And then I got a job in Kirloskar Systems. So now I was weighed between taking up a job,
and
and there was something that I was already doing, designing, which I knew, and I knew how to do it. So I continued to do my designing work.
That was a courageous decision because those were
Yes.
the times where, we were a job centric economy.
Absolutely.
It gave us stability.
Absolutely.
So,
My mom said, "What are you doing? Are you crazy? You're getting a job. Why don't you go and take, if
and
not
that too at
here,
Kirloskar, right?
and
Yes.
Kirloskar Systems, it was in Hebbal." She
Yes.
said, "Why don't you do that? Or even get a job in a bank. It is safe, secure. You needed a secure job. What are you trying to carry a bag, lunch bag every morning to work? They'll have canteens public sector units used to have
Yes.
canteens. What are you trying to do?" And then I went and asked them for collateral security. That was it. They said, and then my father said, yeah, why don't you do that? And my mother had threw a fit. She said, "Why would you want to do that? Take a loan and all that, and then you'll get married, go." Then I think I convinced them both. They gave me the collateral security. I bought my drafting tables. I went and sat in front of those days they used to have field officers in BICE.
Okay.
So I went and sat with the field officer, and he said, "You have to give me a project report." I said, "You tell me, we'll do it." He was surprised, but he sat through that, he used to get those cyclostyle books. I sat and filled it up in front of him, and learnt few things like debt equity ratio and all that. And did it, gave it to him, got my finance with the collateral security because that was important. And then there was no turning back. And I believe that in any business, any product, especially now with technology advancement, product life cycles are short.
Yeah.
Obsolescence levels
Yeah.
are very
Yeah.
high. So I kept changing my product. I moved on from designing to the same customer who was very happy with me. So I said, "I'll do sub assemblies for you." Then in another 9 years, I moved into manufacturing the transformers and coils. I continued to do that. It was while I was doing this that FKCCI invited me as a women into the Women Entrepreneurs Committee of FKCCI. When Mr. Ananda was president of FKCCI, I joined here. I saw what an organization it was. And they sent an OB van. Those days they used to have this, outside broadcasting vans for recording and, for for recording and, video recording your factory. So they came, they did that. And then then you suddenly realize that there is an identity for you, right? Until then, you're part of your own business and
You're
your
fighting
customer.
a lot of stereotypes and
Absolutely.
pressures.
No, pressures of work, like, you need this urgently. There's always that pressure.
Yes.
And at work, there's always the pressure of, you working with your staff teams, telling them to deliver it fast. Now, there's nobody recognizing you as an entrepreneur in those days because there were hardly any organizations that you
Yeah,
were part
yeah.
of. So when FKC says send this OB van to my factory, suddenly I had an identity. So I was part of it for 2 years. It was more or less at that same time that Awake gave me the Technocrat Women Entrepreneur Award.
Oh.
And at that point of time, I was not a member of Awake. It was
Right.
in 92 or 90. And when I went to receive that award, and I was also a member of an organization called CLIck, which I later headed, Consortium of Electronic Industries. I was there because we had a central excise raid. All the vendors to Bharat
Oh, so the
Electronics.
raids happened at
Raids
that time.
happened those times. And because we were
They still
using,
happen today,
they
though.
still happen. But right now the industry is not part of it,
yeah,
is out
yeah,
of it.
yeah.
So when we had that, because we were using the labels of our customers' labels in the small enterprises.
Okay.
So, I mean, it was non-revenue, but it was an issue. So then I think there was some leadership in me. I formed a small group of, formed an association. It was only meant for that. I remember it was called COBS. The ones who got rated, we got together and we went up to Delhi to sort out the issue and we got it done. But it was non-revenue, but it helped us
so the
get together.
activism, the leadership,
Was there.
getting people together to something
It was there. Or I presume it was there. Now, this is the first time I'm ever talking about it. I forgot about it actually. And then, of course, with Awake giving me the technical.
No, but let's stay on that, right? You have a young entrepreneur who's venturing into a field, and I think the kind of support ecosystems you have today, it was negligible. I don't think it was even there. From what I'm hearing, even you're not saying that, but what I'm hearing is a lady just determined to, get work done. Wasn't fear a part of your this thing? Didn't you get scared? Like, you're in your 20s, your mother is saying you're taking collateral, and then you have raids happening, and you're quintessentially working in highly male-dominated, sectors. Didn't you get overwhelmed? Or
I think that's something in me that I never ever felt. Probably that's because I started too early and never felt gender come in. I never felt. For me, it is always the purpose of doing the job and done well. That is it. So gender never came into being. So whatever are the challenges,
it was
as
just
part
the
of the
solution
purpose,
mode.
you need to find a solution and do it. That is it. So where does gender come into being? Gender comes into being when you walk into a room and then you suddenly you feel odd. But then, before you realize, you acclimatize yourself, because by the time you've stepped in, your goal is there in front of you and then nothing else matters. And that goal is whatever was the purpose that you went for that meeting. Once that happens, you forget about gender.
So fear was not a part of
fear has never been a part of it.
Has never been a part
has
of
never really been. For me, goal is more, purpose is more than fear. But finding solutions to problem is something that I always am working on. How do I do this better? What can I do with it? Or, what else can be done is more the way I go about
And then
it.
FKCCI kind of welcomed you and you got that identity, and then you didn't look back even on this journey then?
No, never. So, I mean, 2000, the 2 years in 90s, and then I moved out because I played the role at Awake and then at Click. So, it was only in 2005 after I finished my role in Awake that one of the past presidents said, come, Mr. Babu, past president. And then I came to FKCCI. And I enjoyed it. I was enjoying being part of all these activities and what I choose to do every year. And I think there was some time in that journey that I felt that I should take on that leadership role in FKCCI, and why not, right? And then I did try. It isn't as if it happened the first time. I've lost that election thrice. I mean, always won the sector election. That is something I can proudly say. But to get the vice president election, it was always that, it can be done, that can happen the next year. So it's very difficult to get the votes onto your side.
That's
It's a
quite
time that I lost on a lucky dip. But so be it. Also believe that whatever happens, happens for the good.
good.
And when it happens for the good, it's nice because.
No, that's the other thing, Uma. That's fascinating about people who are successful. We call it a winner's mindset, right?
Mm.
So I must ask you this question. How do you process defeat? How do you process loss? Because it's not easy. Everybody who's successful,
Yeah.
I think, has come in spite of.
Absolutely.
And how do you process those setbacks?
So I do remember the first time I lost the election by 6 votes. I
Oh, it
lost
was 6?
6 votes.
As
yeah.
low as that.
As low as that. And there was a time when I said I lost in a lucky dip. Both of us got equal number of votes. So that moment when you lose it,
Gosh.
you are like any other human being, right? You go through a thing and, that moment you say, oh no, this is not okay. And you
Did you
go
kind of
through
look around
the
the
little
room?
step down, you do go. Your morale sinks down. But sooner than later, you start thinking of what could I have done better? What else can I do? Should I accept defeat? And that's something which I don't. I always say, I will have to do it to the last. I will not go back saying, so I always bounced back, always bounced back. And I had the courage to do it the second time. The second time I was sure I wasn't gonna because there were too many players that day. But the third one where I lost in a lucky dip, that was like touch and go, But the fourth time I made it. So obviously I've had that down, but I bounced back. I never let it, pull me down. And that is something because you need to have that inner strength and self-enthusiasm because nobody's going to give it to you.
Uma, you said you've always bounced back, but, and we spoke about self-motivation. There is that voice that, like you said, our journeys are almost always, you're alone and you have to learn to become your best friend.
Yes.
If you can just help us understand that a little bit, because it's not confidence. People confuse confidence, courage, and in Hindi, there is a word called jigar, which is more than just being confident.
Close.
And,
There's a closeness attached.
Yeah.
to
So
jigar.
what is the why? Why do you choose to bounce back every single time?
Because every single time there is that inner voice in you saying that you want to make it happen. When that's the goal, you want to make it happen, you start working towards it. So that self-enthusiasm comes in without doubt. Because I always never have a fear of asking a question to anybody. Because I always say, I'll give them that option to say no to me. So when I don't have that fear of loss, fear of losing, something, it happened, so be it. Maybe there was a reason. I can do better next time. And probably there is a different way of doing it. So let me still give it a try. And that comes with a lot of self-motivation because there are times when people are looking at you differently also. Oh, she lost it, right? That's there. You can see it in their mind. But then you want to prove it wrong, right? You want to make it happen, right? So you will do it.
But the kind of effort required, Uma, for you to kind of restart and...
Yeah, but that's part of process, right? As entrepreneurs, we all know there's a product that we do it once, it doesn't happen, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. When it doesn't, we do it again, and then in spite of it, after doing about 500 numbers of it, you again come with an issue. And believe me, after nearly 4 decades in business, this morning when I was coming here, we have faced a problem. And I was just telling my customer, I'm doing this for the past 30 years. And why am I having this issue now? And we are all breaking our heads together to solve it. So, so you become very entrepreneurial in the way you look at things everywhere. And I think that's a good trait of an entrepreneur, that they have that. I generally classify entrepreneurs that way, that you don't probably have the skill sets, everything within you, but you learn to, learn many
I mean,
skill sets to be a
your
successful
outlook to
entrepreneur.
life changes.
Yeah.
Changes.
Changes. It kind of not changes, but it broadens. You become more inclusive. You can't work in narrow lanes or any lanes for that matter. It's really larger horizons, and you need to broaden that to be an entrepreneur.
So when you lost that election,
Mm,
and that's on the back of a lot of hard work. I mean, that's a given. Um, and then you won a Gary.
Yeah,
The next time,
this is good.
Do people around you change?
Yes, circumstances make people change, yes. So the ones who did not support me, because I won unanimously at the end of it, so the circumstances made them decide they wanted to vote for that person. And I have no problem with that, because each of them, can decide why they voted, and circumstance makes them vote. Probably he's better than me in certain things, or I'm better than him for certain other things, for the ones who chose me. So it doesn't matter. It happened that way. Then when you do win the election at the end of it, you feel good, because then the entire team was with you, and that's when I said that whatever happens for the
because
good.
To lose an election and then to come back winning it unanimously.
Yeah,
I think that's just a stamp of confidence, approval, and everything.
Absolutely.
In your leadership, and what an inspiring story. Yeah. I think this must be putting a lot of stress on your time, Uma, because
Yes.
this is such a rigorous, it's an institution that operates across districts, and you just explained to us. But then you also have to run a very successful company at the end of the day. So any tips for our viewers on time management?
Yeah, I think there's one thing I would say. As women, we carry some very good genes. One is that we are great multitaskers. We are able to, do many things at a time, which men, I see they like to do it one after the other, especially at home and even otherwise. The second good thing that we can do is we perfect that juggling act. We are able to do it at home. We manage our homes, our careers, and many, many things, and our social events. And that's something which I feel that I'm stretching it to the maximum right now. The good thing is, I go to my office at 8:39, so I continue to do that. And then I'm here by around 11:30. Earlier days, it was at 1 o'clock, but right now I'm in the middle of my tenure with loads of programs. And so I try to come in by around 12. So I got the rest. So then there are days in a week where I'm here the whole day. It depends upon my meetings. But yes, I'm also been in my business for so many years that, that 2 hours of my time there has helped. And I always say that any given point of time when my customer calls me or I have to have an interaction, I definitely have the finger on the pulse of my business. And that's the strength I carry. I am a OEM supplier, so I don't have anything in the retail space.
Yeah.
But yes, there are times when there are issues. Yes, you find time is difficult, but then that's how we are made as entrepreneurs. We learn how to multitask and manage, and so I'm looking forward another 4 months, and then I'm back at my business, which has to continue and survive because there are that many people who are dependent on it.
on you. How was the female energy in the office? Because there's a lot of research also that women lead differently because we think differently, we process information differently. So did the staff have to adjust to some things when you took over?
I'm not really. 80% of my staff are women.
Yeah.
And that's something I've had them for many, and many of them have been with me for 2-3 decades. Of course, the young generation are coming in now as new people come in, but still a large portion of them. And for me, it's just not been FKCC. I've led Awake for 18 years in those days. I was part of Awake. I was president for 2 years at Awake. I've led a click for probably more than 2 decades. I mean, yeah, 2 decades there. Having led these organizations, my team have been used to me giving a lot of this time to their so-called social organizations, and these have been, as you know, social organizations. So I think as a social entrepreneur, I've been part of Awake, I've been part of Click, I founded Emerge, then I was part of Ubuntu Consortium, and I still play that role with FICCI and CMSME FICCI. So that's something that they have been used to. So my role at FKCCI was not something very new for them. But the only difference is that the kind of time that I give here, I mean, I'm here every day, right? That wasn't so much there. Though we used to give probably around 60% of my time for these organizations. There's a lot more here. And also as a chamber, we're a much larger organization. And those were focus sectors. It was either electronics or it was women entrepreneurs. But at FKCCI now, you are actually, the main objective of policy advocacy is just not for MSMEs. It's for trade, it's for services, it's for manufacturing, it's for professionals. So you're literally listening to the nuances of the different sector issues. Then the districts have different issues. The hotel industry has a different issue. So you need to make time to understand, to learn, and to ensure that you are able to, submit the right, pointers to the government on ease of doing business, on policy advocacy.
Yeah. On policy advocacy, I do recollect you spoke about the budget and how in the earlier years FKCCI was the primary input to the budget. Just for our viewers who've tuned in, can you help us understand what is the process actually? What does the process look like?
So, as you know, now the budget comes about in the state in the month of March.
Yes.
So, generally by November, December of the previous year, we are collecting pre-budget memorandums from all our members. So because we are across all sectors, we are not sectors. So it can be from the garments, they have different issues. The food processing might have different issues on, testing foods, can be anything, right? Can be on storage, can be on cold chains, it can be on anything. It can be different for electronic industries, they have issues on imports. Now, some of these are state subjects, and these state subjects have to be brought to the table to the Honorable Chief Minister. So, as FKCCI, we collect pre-budget memorandums from all our 4,500 members plus all the district associations. Now, all that is collated here, and then the earlier days, of course, it used to be one-on-one with FKCCI and the Chief Minister's office. But later, it used to be a 2-3 day, affair with the engagement. One, Mr. B.T. Manohar, has been with us for many years. He used to be part of that, But over a tenure of so many years, I think now it's a one interactive session that we have with the Chief Minister, where FKCCI presents all the points from all our members as a memorandum. And likewise, now they have made it very open, and all the associations are invited for this meeting. So then you have the Reality Sector Association, we have everybody else who represent their sector and who present their memorandum, which when put together and discussed, I'm sure, within the government, as to what can be done, what cannot be done, and whatever, comes the final budget document, which the Chief Minister reads out, and we are there listening into it. And then we say, these points have come in, but these did not. So anyway, that's the way it happens.
So any particular wins that you remember of FKCCI's contribution in policymaking?
So FKCCI has played several roles as far as policies for the state is concerned. Largely, we submit on ease of doing business, the Karnataka Udyog Mitra, the single window schemes. These are areas that we have played, but we play a very active role in the SLBC, where, credit access to members, there's a large amount of policy practice gap, and in that FKCCI plays a role. But in the recent past, we have been playing a very large role in terms of power, because our members sit in the power, in the BESCOM, in the tariff board. And not only have we played a role in, in discussion points, one of our very senior members, MG Prabhakar, has been there for several years. And he works specifically on power tariff, as to how that tariff comes about it and where is the cross subsidy happening. And there are many a times that we've actually put a case against, we've gone legal with the ESCOMs when the power tariff was thereafter reduced. There was recently, a few years ago, we had a 3 MMD deposit, and that was later brought down to 1 MMD. So that was because of FKCCI's intervention, and that amount was adjusted in the invoices. And even as recently as last year, we have again went to court on the tariff itself as to why there was an increase in tariff. So these are areas that FKCCI represents. And more recently, it's the minimum wages that has come about, and even that is something which we are asking the department, that how can minimum wages increase by 60%? Which then means that every MSME has a 60% margin. That means, do they? We know that they don't. We all know, you go to any small enterprise, they don't have that margin at all.
It's hand to mouth.
If that was the case, our SMEs would be thriving. We don't.
Yes.
So when you don't have that, then how did you arrive at this? What gives you that figure? Otherwise, and then you're then taking the SMEs out, which is not right, because they are the ones who are having the maximum employment.
Yes.
We all know that nearly 1 crore of employment comes from the MSMEs. 45% of our exports come from MSMEs. With that being there, what are you trying? If you don't have an enterprise, where is job creation going to happen? So you need to encourage MSMEs, and we need to be cost competitive. Yes, I agree that, we just need to increase, and, employees need that. I mean, no doubt about it, and we are with it. But there needs to be a balance. In the process, you don't want to kill the goose that is laying the egg, right? We don't want that situation.
No, and I think you touch upon a very important point of how much more needs to be done. You've spoken about 2 words that perked up my ears. One is legal in courts, and the second is government.
Yes.
Any frustrations that you've encountered? Is it frustrating? Because for the common man, everything is slow. Nothing is done immediately. And there is a fair amount of anger and frustration, especially with the youth today. So how has your experience been interacting with the government and the judiciary?
I think there is an amount of frustration among enterprises, and you see it. But then when you've been in business, and that's something which you've been in for so many years, right? It's kind of you know very well it's not going to happen tomorrow. Yeah, we are talking of ease of doing business, but I must say that any change is good. Even if you feel that it is a change not good for the industry, not good, but a change is good. It's better not to be stagnant, because then you fight for it, you argue it, you try to convince people, and something comes about it, good or bad, but something comes about it. What would happen if there was no change? So that is something which I'm always with.
Yeah, and with the current
government change, I'm happy about it. Every change is good.
You're good.
It's good.
So you're hopeful about.
I'm always hopeful. Yeah,
as a person, you are.
I'm always hopeful. I always believe, and I think in the recent few days that what I've been seeing, it's good.
At least people are saying now the decisions will happen faster and quicker.
Yeah, I think, what, everybody, once they take up that position, want to prove themselves for the good, definitely. So they would put their heart and rest, right? Otherwise, again, I come back to the same thing. You get complacent about doing what you are doing. You think you're doing right. But a change, and then a new person comes in. No, it's good, because then he or she will start thinking differently. And I think he is thinking different. He feels Why not? Why only for these students? Why not the boy students? To get the bus pass. There are many things that are there in the papers. I said, good. I mean, somebody is thinking different. So
Right,
that's good.
right. So at least we have some new energy in
Yeah,
this.
and there is an interaction, there's a discussion, there's a conversation, there'll be a narrative, and then out of all that there will come something which may be meaningful.
Yes, yes. Very well put. Okay. So, Uma, when you look at the percentage of registration of women entrepreneurs in the MSME sector, I think Karnataka is one of the leading states. We have more than 40% of women registered as MSMEs in the state. What is special about women in Karnataka? I mean, if you look at a woman and a business and you put that together, we seem to be doing very well as a state. The statistics look good.
I think actually, as such, Karnataka has always been doing good in every way. Okay, right from day one, good old days, we had the maximum number of PSUs in Bangalore, not even in Karnataka. You name any PSU which is not here, from Bharat Electronics to BEML to HMT in those days,
Yes.
NGF, Kirloskar.
Yes.
So many public sector units here, BHEL, ITI. We had them all here. The defense organizations, DRDO,
DO.
ADE, they were all here in Karnataka. And I always believe that, that's something that we have kind of have a legacy again of having inherited all these PSUs, because with it came a large number of ancillary units in those days, large number of small enterprises in the process, a whole lot of vendors for these industries, and it brought about an ecosystem in Karnataka. And so it has been the most happening place. With that came educational institutions, because there was a need for students. So, whole lot of education. We also, I think we had another Indian Institute of Science here,
Yes.
it was here. So I think that way Karnataka has housed many of these, and with that kind of an ecosystem, of course, women
It's-
entrepreneurs have to thrive here.
No, well said. I think
Yeah.
we have a lot going for
Lot
us.
going for us.
yeah.
And I think, yes, it's, it becomes much easier when the ecosystem is good, because then when you put your foot forward, you're getting more accepted and much more easier.
Yes.
There are a large number of women in the informal sector. Okay, that's a data that we don't have.
Okay.
And that, if you actually go across the country, probably you will see a large number of that. In the north, you go to places like UP, Himachal, a lot of women. In fact, they say that women there are working much more. But those are informal enterprises, probably self-employment. And so be it here. You go to now any street place, a lot more women, selling things, single woman, self-employed. But that's data that we don't have gender disaggregated it.
And I think we'll make efforts towards that for
That-
sure. There is a new term that a lot of us were discussing now, which is called the orange economy. Orange economy is all of this, social media influencers, and now the central government has also allocated a budget
For the gig workers.
for the gig workers, and there is a content economy that's being spoken about, and we're called the orange economy. Now, do they also form a part of your MSME network?
We hope to. We are still pushing at FKCCI to get the startup entrepreneurs
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
But it is not as easy as it was. So you need to have events that interest them, right? So we have one committee, one or two, three committees which are led for what interests them. One is the sustainability committee. Now that's an area I find most of the young are interested in. So some of them have joined, led by one of the young entrepreneurs. Then we have one more is the digitalization committee. And very uniquely, it is those committees which have a lot of young committee members. So then I also see that in Manthan, because that is working with students. So
Yes.
that's doing very well. And we also have the skill development committee. Now, these are committees where I see more of the young coming in. hopefully, for sure, we will have. But in FKCCI, the mandate is for anyone to be a member, you have to be a GST registered. So that means the cutoff is 50 lakhs
Yes.
turnover.
Yes.
So generally the gig are not part of the chamber. They have to be an enterprise owner. They have to have a GST registration. So they are probably part of other groups, but not part
But
of
not yet.
not yet part
Not
of the
yet.
thing. And FKCCI itself has seen a journey from traders. Then the industries came. Then the manufacturing sector came in.
Yeah.
Then they got the IT services. Then in between they felt that the tax professionals should be part of the chamber. And then the associations were also there then at that time. But maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? And that leads me to AI. Everybody is speaking about it, right? So there's both sides to it. I mean, the recent example or case study I was seeing was a plant in Pina, you know, which has cameras and it's almost eyes that do quality checks. And it kind of came out in the newspaper that, you know, they had a very successful experiment. The defects, you know, the identification of defects was quicker, accurate, faster. And that one machine displaced about 10 to 15 people in that plant. So, you know, you have a contrast here, right? You have something accelerating productivity, you know, you can, there's a whole lot of plus and wins that comes with new technology, but you also have displacement of jobs. How do you see this?
I believe that AI probably replaces the particular person there, but that person would find another activity which he or she does. And then they improve upon skill sets to take up additional works. I always believe that, you know, AI doesn't replace, but more or less you use AI to augment your, you know, productivity. As you said about quality, but that can also be for productivity. You know, of late, thanks to, you know, unavailability of skilled manpower across all sectors, there is a huge need for skilled manpower. And when you don't have that skilled manpower, what happens when I have an AI tool which helps the unskilled become a skilled person for simple things like, I was just working out it in my own business, and my production had to increase in the last 3 months, doubling.
Well, that's a good problem to solve.
Yeah, it's a good problem to solve, but
it's a problem nonetheless.
Yeah, it's a sleepless night again.
Yeah.
But you know what happens? I'm not going to get skilled manpower in 3 days' time. But if I have a tool that helps me improve, make my unskilled labor be able to do that soldering with a machine, now she or he will learn the skill set much faster. And I can put on an unskilled person and the machine is doing the job for me, right? So you use AI to augment your work. You also use AI as analytics, right? You understand how is the productivity level in the morning, how was it in after lunch, and it again then differs from person to person. Now it's impossible for anybody to get this analytics. Nothing like having an AI tool for it. So I think, you know, you use it the way you want to use it. And I think it's a welcome thing. I don't think we will totally displace people. There might be a temporary displacement. And being a, you know, 4-decade industry person, we've seen the computers come in the 80s. And that was the same thing that was talked about that time, that computers would replace people. What would people do? And computers came in, computers are, I think, imbibed into our system. And with AI and robotics now, we still need more, right? So we don't know what else is in store.
Another challenging problem that we're all dealing with is labor, talent. And as we study the cultural influences of the so-called Gen Z generation and now the upcoming Alpha generation, if you study this thing, a lot of them are aspiring either to work in these large MNCs or they want to do something very different. It's a very entrepreneurial kind of a driven this thing. Anything on talent advocacy that you're seeing?
Yes, this is a problem that we are facing, especially coming from the manufacturing sector. It's something quite disheartening because the manufacturing sector has come down in the last 2 years. That is because of talent pool not being available, and there is no enthusiasm by the young gen to join manufacturing.
You see that decline.
I see that decline. Nobody wants to dirty their fingers. It's very difficult. Very far and few are interested in being on shop floors to get into manufacturing. Everybody wants a desk job. And how many desk jobs do you have, right? So, especially in the manufacturing sector, how do you? So, there is that decline. And then the second thing is that the new gen, their attention spans are very, very low. And manufacturing sector needs large attention spans. You actually have to sit through with that problem for hours together. And that's something I find, it's visible that they don't have those attention. They want that change. And so I think there has to be some extra efforts for us to get people into the manufacturing sector very much and to get them to be part of it.
So do you see a contrast between urban and rural? Because most of the times they say a lot of these distractions and the sense of entitlement that we see are urban centric, and Bangalore contributes to more than 55% of Karnataka's GDP. So if you go outside Bangalore, the story and the pictures are not the same.
Yeah, probably there is a small percentage, but it's the devices that we are all hanging on to, right? And that is now across. There was a time when it was only in urban.
It was urban centric.
Not anymore. Now it's traveled through. You see it in, and then there's also that exploratory interest in the rural areas to go to Bengaluru, to go to a metro. They want to live there. Like, some of them want to go abroad, live there for some time and come back. So that is there. So I think
we've lived through that cycle where
yes.
where our main purpose of getting educated was to leave and go to America or somewhere this thing.
And then, right. That's so true. And you see that. So you see that in the rural areas. And so I think there's a lot of initiatives on Beyond Bengaluru. I think that's also again transitioning because there are now a lot of them who want to be in rural, India. You've seen Zoho, start off in a rural India. And so I think there are some minds, young minds, who want to be that, person who is a star in a rural. So if you have that kind of an ambition, you want to be, it's going to be difficult to make that space for yourself in an urban, but you can make that space in a rural area.
In a rural district.
So again, it's mindsets, people centric decisions. But yes, I think, there is a decline in manufacturing.
Yeah. And if you go outside Bangalore, any favorite district of yours in Karnataka?
I love Hampi. I love to go to Hampi because that's a space that I love. Our plan is to go to Shimoga soon. So that's it. I love traveling. So I won't say any specific place. I love going everywhere.
What do you love about Karnataka, Uma? Because whenever I ask you about Karnataka or advocacy, your eyes, the spark in your eyes shines through.
No,
what do you love about our state?
I love the heritage.
You love the heritage.
I love the heritage. I'm in Belur, Halebedu, Shravanbelgola. I love the heritage. I love the people. We are a very inclusive kind of a state. We take everybody in.
Kannadigas.
Yeah. I love Malleshwaram. You like every little thing.
What is?
I love the weather. I love people. It's like, you go abroad also and then I'm home when I'm here. That feeling of home comes only when you come to Nama Bengaluru.
So if you were to define a Kannadiga, I'm a Kannadiga, you're a Kannadiga, right? So what makes Kannadiga?
We are friendly, very inclusive. We take people in us. Yeah.
That's the strength of our culture.
Yeah.
probably.
We're very inclusive. We accept everybody.
And the languages that every Kannadiga
And
grows
that's
up-
one thing, no, here in especially that I've lived all my life in Bangalore. Language never mattered, no, right? You're not so particular. We accommodate, we'll talk, even a newcomer comes in. So that's one thing. We've been such a cosmopolitan city.
We have.
Yeah.
That's a part of our fabric,
Absolutely.
isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. Do you see any changes of Bangalore? Because 20 years is when everything happened,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Electronic City was a single lane on bullock carts.
Carts.
Right? We have this famous picture of ISRO thing going on a cycle.
The rocket on the cycle.
Right? What do you miss about the old Bangalore days?
I miss the circles.
You miss the circle.
Every road intersection had a circle. KR Circle, where I studied 5 years in UVC, was a lovely circle. Malleshwaram in front of Indian Institute of Science was a circle. And they were always maintained by one PSU or the other. And they used to have that maintained by board with flowers. And I remember the first traffic light when it came in KR Circle. And then the circle, where is the flowers? Everything is gone. But that's something I've grown up with. Gulmohar trees and circles.
Yeah. Any favorite joints of food in those days that, or it was still Vidyarthi Bhavan, I know is still number one, irrespective of generation?
For me, it was more Veena stores because I live in North Bengaluru.
Yeah.
There was one vada person there in the same road, on Sampige Road, not the Margosa Road. And those were places.
And what in Veena
And that
store?
temple there, that Shiva temple in Malleshwaram. What Khadu temple, Malleshwara Khada temple.
And what in Veena stores over here?
Dosa, upma, generally upma. Upma with the chutney was the most speciality from then to today.
Today, it's still the same.
It's a chutney.
It's still the same. It's still the
more
same.
than the dosa and more than the upma, it's a chutney.
Yes, yes. And when you look at transition, and I mean, I think
Veena store itself has gone through transition. From good old train, and now you have a thing where you can select your...
You can select
your
and
menu.
we have this mode of GPay.
Yeah, I know.
Or whatever, Phone Pay, and these modes of transaction were
UPI payments.
never heard of,
Yeah.
right? You belong to a generation that I think you're so special in so many ways.
I'm so lucky from being analog to, when we had vernier scales, we didn't have calculators, to now.
To now.
AI is
to now. And how do you see now to maybe the next 10 years?
I wonder what next, what more, right? You feel you've come to like the top end, and then that's what when we felt when computers came in, and then we didn't think that what else. Internet banto, internet became, or the day when we had a cell phone in our hands, and we thought that itself was something, or prior to that we had a Casio,
Yes.
One in our hands, digital, whatever it was called, digital something. And then we had the smartphone come in, and I think it's come a long way from photo reels to, pictures on your phone.
Yeah.
We've come a long
Anything that worries you about the future? Especially when you look at the society, the relationships, breakdown of families.
I'm not worried so much about it. I feel, it will come a full circle because there are that many people who are worried about sustainability, who are worried about circular, who are going back to their roots. Example, the Zoho case, the fact that he went back to, his village.
Vembu.
So there are that many people who are thinking. It isn't like this or that. No, it is this and that. So it again depends on who influences whom, how much more. And there are times when you see the YGen also sitting back, spending time with family. I think there is more focus on spending time with family as an activity, which was earlier it was never an activity. It was just part and parcel of your life.
Yes.
Nobody ever gave a label saying, "Oh, you're spending time with family tomorrow." It wasn't there. It was part of your lifestyle. It was never labeled. Now it's labeled. So, sometimes if it's being labeled, that means there is a focus to it. And then probably you're giving more
Interesting.
quality time. So
Interesting that you say it,
Mm.
because when you talk about relationships, and I
Right.
was having a conversation with Gen Zs and everything, and for them, words like bench,
Mm.
when we were growing up, bench was a workforce.
When you sit on the bench.
When you sit on the bench. And now the concept of bench,
Mm.
coming in, and the situationship, and on an average, having 4 partners, some of the statistic was like mind blowing. But then one of them also turned around and said, probably this was happening in all generations, but they were not tagged.
Absolutely. Now you're labeling it.
Now you're labeling everything, so it's coming into focus. But
Probably.
it's a very interesting mix of cultures, because I think Bangalore has never had. One interesting data that I was seeing is that Bangalore itself has less than 10% of Kannadigas.
Yeah, that you see. And it's surprisingly that I find that when I travel to even beyond Bengaluru,
Okay.
even there I don't see. I mean, I went to the hotel where I checked in Kalburgi. Now in Kalburgi, I expect everybody in the staff to be a Kannada person because
It's
Alle,
Kalburgi.
and then when you go there and then I'm talking to I went for breakfast in the morning. And then I'm asking that girl, and there was a girl, waitress, and asking her in Kannada, nange dosa taun ba, it taun ba. And she had no idea what I was speaking. And then I had to speak in Hindi. So you see that there is an influx of people. That means that the numbers of us in Kannadigas are reducing.
Are reducing. After a
So
long
that-
time, I heard somebody say dose.
Dose.
Dose. We're so used to
Just
dosa, all of that. Yes, yes. So we're going to wrap up this segment with one last question and quickly move into my favorite segment, the rapid fire. So as we wrap this up, Uma, one bold vision that you have for the state and one bold aspiration you have for women, if you can share that with us.
For the state, I would say that, I really would like to push ease of doing business. That's a Herculean task across all sectors, but that's something which we need to do because we are talking of growth and we can't sit complacent on that. So I think that's something, especially when I'm focusing on the manufacturing sector. IT is anyway going to go wrong. That's
It's a given
thing. But manufacturing, yes, yeah. For women, I think the time has come that women need to take steps forward, focus on what you need to do and achieve it. That's it.
Just do
go
it.
forward. Just do it. There's nothing else.
Because oftentimes I've seen success has no gender.
Yes,
Because everybody who's been successful have followed a common set of traits, not giving up,
yeah.
Having a solution mindset, and being motivated from within. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of time women hold themselves back probably by thinking about stereotypes.
Mm.
So I think your message is so apt, saying
It is.
just focus on the goal and go ahead.
And do it. But I also, what I've noticed in this journey is that as women, we are constantly proving ourselves. You with your interactions with people, I always notice that you need to prove yourself to the society at large. It's not given. You could have been successful earlier in something else, but every time and again, you're proving yourself. And
So you think
That's
women
something.
even today have to work harder?
work harder. Work harder to prove themselves. And that's something, yes. It's not given. You could have been done it, but next
Handed
time, okay, let's say you got a purchase order. I mean, simple put, 1,000 numbers. You're not going to get 10,000 next time. A man might get it, but not a woman. For women, you're given that 1,000 goes to 3,000, 5,000, then the
Have to.
10,000. So it's always, a step up, step up, step up. So you're always proving that you can do, you have to do it. Somehow that is there, and I feel that, especially when you're in this business world, enterprise world.
No,
And there are more eyeballs on you. That's probably why we as women feel that we have to prove ourselves, because there are more eyeballs. They want to see whether you'll do it. So you know that there are many people looking at you whether you're doing it. So that's also probably one of the reasons. But yes, it is visible.
So your message is cut out the distractions.
Yeah, cut out the distractions.
Just do it.
Just focus on that, and then you will do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what? You made a mistake. It happens. Everybody does, right? But yeah, don't take it to that. Yeah. And don't get judgmental about it.
In fact, I was talking to one of the past presidents earlier to this interview, and I was asking him what fascinates you about your tenure as a president. And he said, we're surrounded by women. You have our chief secretary.
Oh, yes.
Ms. Shalini Rajneesh, who's there. You have Shobha Karandlaje, who's the minister at MSME.
Now
you have Nirmala Sitharaman as the finance minister.
Now we have a Khushbu Goyal as Commissioner for Industries. Earlier it was Gunjan Krishna. But yes. A lot of women.
We have Manjula, who's the Principal Secretary for ITBT.
Yes.
So he said, we're just surrounded by women.
And we have an RBI regional head is also women.
Yes,
yeah.
That came
I just met her 2 days ago. So it's interesting.
So maybe good times for the state then.
Absolutely, absolutely. You go to a college, an engineering college. There was a time when I went into engineering that there were only 9 girls in that college prior to we going in. Okay. And then suddenly we were in a class of 110 or so. We were 42 girls came in. That was the first time that UVC saw so many girls. But now if you go to any of the colleges, there are more girls than boys. And I understand that the cutoff rate for girls is higher than boys because they want to balance the number of girls and boys in a college and an education. So I think sooner or later, women will make their inroads. It's going to happen, and it is happening. And it is visible. Yeah, it's only a matter of time. And then we'll probably have same sessions for men later.
Yeah, maybe. I certainly look forward to the day where I say that, how does it feel to be a male president of FKCCI?
Yeah, so
we don't ask those questions to them, but
it's given.
It's given. It's given. Yeah. On that note, thank you so much, Uma, for spending time with us.
Thank you. Yes,
Uma, we've spent this conversation talking about the entrepreneur, the industry leader, president of FKCCI, and the champion of Karnataka's business community. But I've known you for over 20 years, and I can tell everyone here that the titles are only a small part of who you are. The Uma most people remember is the one who always picks up the phone and offers to help before you ask for it, remembers people, and somehow becomes everybody's favorite. A warm smile, very generous, and endlessly helpful, and usually the person everybody calls when they need a miracle delivered yesterday. So now I'd like to move away from the boardrooms, the policy discussions, and the industry forums and get to know the person I have had the privilege of knowing all these years. Welcome to our favorite segment on Culture Calls, Straight from the Heart. Okay, ready?
Ready.
Okay, one word that best describes your entrepreneurial journey.
Resilience.
What gave you more sleepless nights in the early years? Finance, people, or the sheer uncertainty of what you've started?
Neither of them. Just that overwhelming aim to achieve and to do and deliver the product the following day.
Very customer centric.
Very, very, very.
A quality every entrepreneur must develop before success arrives.
Be persistent.
One thing manufacturing has taught you?
Being grounded. You go up, then you realize there's a mistake, you come down, you again go up. So it's something like playing golf.
If you had not become an entrepreneur, what do you think you could have become?
I still would have been in the engineering sector.
What gives you greater satisfaction today? It's a difficult one.
Mm.
Continuing to build your own company or mentoring young entrepreneurs?
Mentoring. I love that time I spent in mentoring.
One stereotype about women in business that you really want to break?
Gender agnostic? We don't need to be gender. I mean, I haven't, so obviously gender agnostic. Yeah.
One habit or discipline that has stayed with you through the decades?
Systems, procedures,
Systems and processes.
process, yeah, SOPs to be put it for.
I mean, yesterday I was with Prakash Nanjappa, our Olympian shooter, and he was mentioning process before anything else.
Yes, yeah.
I think that's the winner's mindset.
SOPs are important, and I think along SOPs. So.
A moment in your journey when you quietly told yourself that I've arrived or I've earned my place.
Every time I do something.
And especially after you
After I won the presidentship of
elections.
Yes,
Yes.
I felt that, yes.
Uma, how many elections have you fought in FKCC?
In FKCC, 4.
4 elections.
Yeah, 4.
Wow.
But every year it's an election for the sector. Even that
Yes.
you need to win.
So if you combine that?
That's around 30 then.
30 elections.
30 elections. So every time you have to win an election. So that's around 1,000 members who have to vote for you, have to come physically, make time, say that I'm coming to FKCC and voting for 5 of them and 1 of them is you.
Wow.
So that's a lot. So it's actually very meaningful, which needs to be actually added in because it also shows what these 5 people did for the sector during that year. Why would somebody come just because you call them? And in Bangalore's traffic, for someone to come all the way to just vote and nothing else, right? It's an effort. So unless they felt that you brought about some difference, you've done something, that they would take that time off to come.
So 30 elections at the sector level, 4 elections here at the HQ. I mean, real civil elections anytime soon?
No, not at all. Far
Far away.
Not on that frame at all. So not part of that framework.
A place or an activity that helps you disconnect from the pressures of leadership?
I love to travel out amongst greenery.
And I know you love to drive as well.
Yeah, I love to drive, so I'd like to do that.
Your favorite travel destination?
I'd say Europe.
Europe. Latest.
I love anything to do with history.
Oh, and you would love Europe.
Yeah, so there's so much of history there. So that's how.
Latest movie you watched?
No, I haven't watched for quite some time.
The pressures of the office.
Work, yeah, I haven't had that. But I've seen some on OTT, but you know.
So one of your favorite recent movies?
No, I won't say recent, but something which I connected to, for many years and remains with me is Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. So I'll actually talk about that. Yeah. It's about connects.
It stays with you.
It stays with you.
What's your favorite color of sari that you would choose if it's a very important?
I love sober, but something like mustard.
That's your color.
Yeah, that's a color that I like when I want to feel brightened in a thing. Stay back, then I would wear a grey or a black. So I'm not so particular. Again, the weather decides, the meeting decides where I want to be bright, where I want to be
a little black.
Yeah, where I want to be more trendy and where I would like to be. It again depends upon the situation.
How do you unwind?
Travel.
If FKCCI chose to solve one problem for Karnataka's entrepreneurs, what would that one problem be?
I would say that should be also ease of doing business for enterprises. That kind of encompasses everything.
When history looks back at your journey, what would you want it to remember beyond the titles?
She did her best.
That's very sweet.
Yeah.
And that's you.
That's me. Yeah.
You want things well done.
That's well done. Whatever I did, I've done to my best.
Power dressing to you is?
A sari
Hmm.
gives me confidence. I've grown up with it.
A cup of coffee with a book or popcorn and a movie?
A popcorn and a movie. Now, there was a time when it was the other way around, but now it's more popcorn with a movie.
Popcorn. Would you like to take a walk down MG Road or spend time in a tech park?
MG Road, to be different.
Any day.
Any day, yeah. There's so much to see, so much of variety.
Life in Bangalore is?
Awesome. Don't look at the wrong side of things. Look at the gulmohars, look at those yellow flowers, look at those pink flowers. You somehow don't connect to that. But the moment you start looking at all of them, it's awesome.
Biryani versus bisibelebad versus ragi mudde.
Bisibelebad for me. I like that huli in it.
Lakeview or Corner House?
Corner House. It's still there. I still go there.
And is it still Death by Chocolate?
Death by Chocolate, yes. Otherwise, it's just the hot chocolate.
Women or a woman in a room full of men means?
She's standing her ground. Doesn't matter. With her peers or rubbing shoulders. That's all.
Profit versus purpose?
Purpose, anytime.
What keeps you awake at night?
Again, purpose. What I need to do tomorrow or what needs to be done and will it be done. But if I've had the roadmap clear, then I sleep. But I must say this as an add-on. I sleep before my head touches the pillow. Most, I would say 90% of the days. There's never been that sleepless night.
What makes you happy?
Just doing what I've done, and I pat myself. Quite happy doing what I've done. If I've done it well, I'm okay.
And angry?
Angry when, I've given an instruction and it's not done as per that. Then I'm upset.
You're upset. Your favorite president of FKCCI?
Oh, there are many.
Would you like
But
to name
many seniors, and I believe that everybody has contributed. So I can't say one particular, but there would be many out of them. Who is there? KG Subram Sethi. He is one of the oldest, presidents in the chamber, in the committee. But I believe that every president has done something different and brought in something for the organization in their own way. So I truly appreciate for what they have done for building the organization.
Your one hope for upcoming generations?
I only hope that their attention span increases. That's my only hope. That's for the upcoming generation. I somehow feel that they jump a lot. So that transitioning is happening too much.
And FKCCI at its best would be?
Recognized by both the state and the central as an organization to reckon with.
Now, we're going to quickly give you a few names and a first word, one word, or a first couple of words that comes to describe them. Ms. Shobha Karanlaje, our Minister of State of Micro and Small Enterprises.
Focused MSME leader.
Dr. Shalini Rajneesh.
Supportive, friendly doer.
Any role model that you look up to?
I do look up to many, and I believe that I take the good out of many people. It's never one. It's never been one. And I always look for the good in everybody. What is it that they can do? And I believe that everybody has both good and bad. There's never, only good. There's always something which you think is not right. So you leave that part of it. Take whatever is good.
Uma, thank you so very much for being with us today. For our audience, especially young women, professionals and entrepreneurs who've tuned in today, Uma's story reminds us that influence is not built through authority alone. It's built through trust, consistency, and the willingness to create opportunities for others. Uma, we wish you all the very best as you continue to lead FKCCI, champion entrepreneurs, strengthen Karnataka's business ecosystem, and inspire more women to step forward and lead with confidence. Thank you for your friendship, your dal khichdi for lunch, your warmth, and for just being an example to so many of us in Karnataka.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so very much, Yash. Never thought what we had as a conversation in another event actually brought us here back today. And thank you so very much for thinking of me and to making it happen.
Thank you.